I need to do a trademark on this, so if any IP lawyers listening, I'm interested. I didn't eat lunch. Now, if for any of your viewers there's like, I don't look so elegant while eating, please be. I have seen portfolios these days with 100, 200, 300 funds. At that point, you're not tasting anything, you're holding the whole market.
Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching NDTV Profit and this is Money Wise. My name is Alex Matthew and usually on this program, we talk about money. So you're probably wondering what I'm doing here. I am at Maharaja Bhog in Lower Parel, Mumbai, and this is an all-you-can-eat Thali restaurant that was founded by Ashish Maheshwari in 2011. It just so happens that my guest on today's program speaks about the investments that you make and compares it with food. She says that it should be as simple as Dal Chawal. In fact, here she is right now. Hi, Radhika.
Hello, Alex. How are you?
What fun.
What fun. This is about the most fun finance interview I'm likely to do, and there's actually food.
In case my viewers did not know, and I don't know where they've been staying if they didn't, Radhika Gupta, Chief Executive Officer of Edelweiss Mutual Fund.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me on Money Wise.
Thank you.
The genesis of this conversation is your comment that you made about rice and dal. Dal chawal.
Dal Chawal it is.
And it's gone viral.
It's gone super viral. I have got promoters telling me Dal Chawal is a business model. I've got rice companies saying I should be a brand ambassador. I need to do a trademark on this, so if any IP lawyers listening, I'm interested.
There you go. All right.
What is this?
Oh, lovely. Okay.
This is nice.
So, I'm told that this is the donation that you make. ₹1
Very nice.
from each person goes to a donation.
I'm going to do 10 rupees.
Very good.
Because it's festive season.
Absolutely. And that's where we're talking. You know, I want to understand why you think this entire concept has gone viral.
Why has Dal Chawal gone viral? And I've been thinking about it. I think there's a couple of reasons. One is food is probably the easiest way to connect because we Indians, we love our food,
Yes.
right? You know, a good wedding is about our food. All our occasions are about food. So that's that. The second thing is, I think Dal Chawal is very unique and yet very common. You know, you'll have a Gujarati dal and you'll have a Sindhi dal and you'll have a Andhra dal and an Assam dal. But it's a it transcends borders, geographies. And finally, right, there's a definition of comfort food in all of our life, right?
Yes.
It may be mac and cheese if you're American, and it may be spaghetti and tomato sauce or pasta and tomato sauce if you're from another part. But for us, Dal Chawal is very comfort food.
Thank you.
Kesar. Okay.
Chandan and Kesar. There you go.
Chandan and Kesar, that's very nice.
So it's very traditional. We've got the tikka and everything.
We've got the tikka, we've got the Kesar, it's all, we've got chas.
And it all relates to what you were just pointing out. It's very traditional. And I think there are so many parallels, Radhika, that you can draw between food and investments.
There are actually, I think there are so many parallels that you can draw between life and money in general. Because good investing practices and good life practices are broadly kind of the same. But yeah, I think the reason Dal Chawal have a caught on is it's very simple, it's very accessible, and ultimately we all love a good bowl of Dal Chawal. Like, my favorite is jeera rice and tur dal, and I'm very particular about the tadka.
And when you're sick, that's the best thing to eat.
Yeah, and the other combination of Dal Chawal, which is khichdi, is also a very popular food, which is essentially Dal Chawal in a one-pot meal. There's some great fun analogies there also. But yeah, it's when you're sick, you eat khichdi.
But what we're going to have today is a full-fledged thali.
Okay.
I hope you've kept your stomach relatively empty because...
Yeah, I didn't eat lunch. Now, if for any of your viewers there's like, I don't look so elegant while eating, please be forgiving.
No, I've actually pointed to someone in the back. Thank you. to warn me if I've got something stuck in my teeth, Radhika. So
This Chandan water is very nice.
it is very nice.
It is super nice.
So, all you can eat.
All you
and
can eat.
There's going to be a lot of analogies that we draw, as I mentioned. But, I want to talk about the investment landscape because it's changed so dramatically.
Yes.
Of course, the Thali has stayed more or less the same over the last many decades. But even in the time that you've spent in the industry, it's changed dramatically. But before we get to that, I heard that you didn't start your career in this industry. You started your career in the culinary industry, Radhika.
A culinary industry is being a little too kind to me, but yeah, my first business venture was actually a restaurant out of a dorm, and I think I was 19 or 20 then. I was at Penn, and at that point, you either had college pizza at 10 o'clock at night, right? Or like the Indian food was very not this kind of good Indian food. It was like bad naan and what they called saag paneer and tikka masala in the US, right? So we said, why don't we do a pickup service where you have home style food? And we were two partners. I didn't know how to cook. I would call my mom every night for recipes.
Okay.
And then I would cook the dal and I would be beloing rotis. So for 2 semesters, I was beloing 100 rotis a day. It was called Mirch Madness.
So it was called Mirch Madness.
Yeah, because March Madness is a big American thing. So this was like Mirch Madness, March Madness. And I was studying, I was doing 2 degrees. And then at night, I was cooking from 10 to 12, serving and doing bartan after 12.
This is not what they say when they say that you should find a job when you go study abroad. No, this is not what they say.
And my husband, who was my boyfriend then, said that I used to come to class the next day smelling of garam masala. Which probably doesn't sound very good, right?
And we've come a long way since that point.
Yeah, we've done better.
Yes, but we were talking about how the landscape has changed. How would you define that? How do you describe that?
I think it's like with many things, with India's prosperity, the options have just opened up, right? So your dining landscape has changed. You have so many more options. Your investing landscape has changed. I think 20, 30 years ago, when you looked at the mutual fund industry, they were broadly like active equity funds and income funds. Yahi hota tha.
Yeah.
And wo active, maybe there was either growth managers or value managers. They're bucketing the small buckets. Now, it's actually a lot.
Exploded.
There's active equity, passive equity, active debt, passive debt.
Hybrid.
Within passive, there's smart beta, there's single factor, multi-factor, regular index funds. There's thematic, within thematic, there's so many themes. There's international funds. Actually, I think the landscape is really vaster than all of the stuff that we're seeing. And by the way, I also think the landscape is so vast that you need more help.
You need more help. And these are all aspects that I want to cover because when you talk about it, diversity is the spice of life.
Yep.
Or variety is the spice of life. Diversity is great for your portfolio as well, but you shouldn't have everything.
Yeah.
Right? Where do you draw the line and how much do you have of everything? Because these guys are experts at putting food on the table. They're giving you a little bit of everything.
Yeah, thankfully.
And that's probably good, yeah. But
so I get this, and by the way, I'm a small eater.
So am I.
Although I love thalis because I feel I get to taste a little bit of everything and I get bored eating one sabzi.
Yeah.
I think from a portfolio perspective, however, there's a middle balance between the thali. Like a thali with 50 items is probably too much of a thali for people like us.
Yeah.
So a portfolio with 50, 60 funds. And Alex, I have seen portfolios these days with 100, 200, 300 funds. At that point, you're not tasting anything. You're holding the whole market.
In fact, that's what you pointed out. You said there was, 30,000 rupees split into...
Yeah, there was an SIP portfolio I saw where someone was doing a 30,000 a month SIP and it was across like 30 funds. And of course, half of them were what I call pickle and chutney funds, which were your infrastructure or deeply thematic stuff. And very little of it was this roti and the normal stuff that we should be eating.
And you were pointing out that 70% or 70-80% should be dal chawal.
I think so. I think 70-80. I mean, if you look at the composition as this thali gets set up and you can replace chawal with roti.
Yes.
A bulk of what we are eating is really grains and sabzi and dal.
Yeah.
All this pickle chutney stuff, and they haven't gotten dessert yet, but I'm sure they're not good. Aayega, huh? But I'm sure they're not getting me 8 sweets, right?
Yeah.
Or they're getting us 1 and there's a little bit of chutney. This is actually a perfect proportion, right?
Yeah.
80% core
Yeah.
and the balance is...
So, but let's also talk about and before we get into some of the other analogies, and there's a sweet, right?
There's
I'm already
one sweet.
eyeing it. But
And there's another sweet.
there you go.
Oh God. Is that badam ka halwa?
Moong dal halwa.
That is my favorite halwa. I'm going to overload on sweets today.
So, but before we get into some of the other aspects, let's define what this dal chawal should be, right?
And there are lots of myths around it.
Yes. So therefore, let's define it, because ultimately people have to understand, of course, you can go to a Maharaja Bhog or you can go to some other...
नमस्कार सर महाराजा भोग में आपका स्वागत
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Ishwar ji.
How are you?
Ishwar ji is going to tell us what is on our plate
Oh, lovely.
right now, so that we can then get into the details, as you were pointing out,
And
of
the
what
meat also.
80%, yeah. So,
यस सर सबसे पहले जो गाँव आया सर वो हम लोग एक थाली के पीछे एक कौन गाँव को डोनेट करते हैं
so that's the donation, and you did 10 rupees.
I did 10 rupees.
Yes.
थैंक यू उसके बाद ड्रिंक्स है ये सेफ्रोन है केसर और चंदन का
Right.
ये
अच्छा।
छाछ बटर मिल्क
हाँ।
फिर स्टार्टर से स्टार्ट करना है जो बरसा डोला है
हाँ।
और खांडवी है
And
एंड दिस इज खिचड़ी
Right.
साबूदाना खिचड़ी
sabudana khichdi.
तो पूरी रोटी है जो बैंगन का भरता पनीर मेथी मटर मलाई आलू एंड चना
Right.
राजस्थानी दाल राजस्थानी कड़ी गुजराती दाल
So
गुजराती
दोनों दाल
कड़ी
दोनों कड़ी.
यस मैम चारों वैरायटी है और लास्ट में डेजर्ट रहता है जो फ्रूट कस्टर्ड है और मूंग दाल हलवा और राइस और खिचड़ी भी आएगा जो आप एक बार स्टार्ट कीजिए देन विल गिव
Very good. All right.
See, by the way, he's got 2 dals and he's got a khichdi. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of
khichdi,
dal
pulao,
chawal
plain
going
rice.
on.
That's a lot of dal chawal. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Ishwar ji.
Ishwar.
प्लीज
Thank
enjoy
you.
your meal
So let's talk about that 80%,
Yeah.
right? So why don't you explain what that is about?
So when I make dal chawal, you know, people sort of sometimes think, oh, dal chawal is only passive, it's only active, it's a category of funds. It's a philosophy, and please start
Yeah,
eating. I
let's
will
start.
also start eating. Dal chawal is the idea that what you buy and what should be core to your portfolio is stuff that is not seasonal. It's stuff that is easy to digest, hence dal chawal. It is stuff that is time tested and can last the test of time. So it's not very seasonal. It's not very cyclical in nature.
Right.
I think that is core to dal chawal. And many times now these days when I'm launching funds, you know, we have some fund launch going on, a user is writing back to me saying, Madam, ye dal chawal hai ya nahi hai? Dal chawal nahi hai. And I think the definition of it is it easy to understand? Is it easy to digest? And will it last the test of time? Does it count on just being, is it flavor of the season or is it not?
And all thematic sectoral is flavor of the season.
Is flavor of the season. So all thematic sectoral, and even within that, you know, there's some very niche ideas being launched that are like the tiniest piece of chutney here, because it will be a thematic fund with 10 stocks. 4 are going to be 60% of the portfolio, and the sector is at 70, 80 PE. I don't want to name specific.
And we've seen several of these schemes launch and then shut within the first couple of weeks.
And we've
because
seen several of these schemes get a lot of collections.
Absolutely, because talk about the last few months, Radhika, we're talking about a situation where now thematic sectoral has become by far and away the largest actively managed category in the equity category, and that for me is a little scary.
Oh, it's become the largest?
It is the largest.
Wow. Half the flows this year in the industry were into thematic and sectoral stuff.
It used to be flexi cap, and now flexi cap
and
is the
flexi
second.
cap is your definition of dal chawal.
Exactly, and flexi cap is now the second largest thematic and sectoral for the last couple of
I
months.
didn't realize that.
It's
And you know, even within thematic and sectoral used to mean financials, consumption.
Yes.
These are still
Broad.
broad themes. Consumption is 40% of the economy.
yeah.
Tech is a large theme. But now it's become very, very narrow sectors, where, as I said,
Business
There-
cycle funds.
well, business cycle again is actually very broad based, because business cycle is 40 stock. Business cycles, many of these are, I would say, dal chawal with tatka. They are diversified funds in a different flavor. But you take a very narrow sector like future of transportation. That is what I call chutney.
Well, okay, fair point.
That is extremely chutney.
And that shouldn't be what? It should be less than 20%. And
The whole aggregate should be about 20% of your portfolio.
all of the chutney, right? Because if you think about it, if you have 20% of this meal as chutney, it's not going to taste very good.
It's not going to taste very good.
Okay, so the other aspect that we talk about is the role of the people serving you. You had Ishwarji come and explain what each of these components were. Ultimately, when you walk into a restaurant, Radhika, and you have the the restaurant only serving Italian. Of course, you
Yeah.
know that you're walking into an Italian restaurant. But you can't have Italian every day.
And I think in every restaurant we go and ask for recommendations,
Yes.
because even within a restaurant, there are things that work for your palate, there are things that don't work for your palate. You know, you were talking about the investment landscape expanding.
Yeah.
People keep telling me so many funds have launched these days, so many NFOs are going on, and I'm like, we have a couple of restaurants within each category, and that is where you go.
Yeah.
And usually you take recommendations from your friends.
And even if there's a new restaurant, you will likely look up reviews, right?
You'll do some checks on reviews, you'll check with a couple of people who went there.
And the parallel to draw is NFOs.
Yeah.
You don't know what the fund manager has done necessarily.
And you don't go to every new restaurant. And how much of your diet is new restaurants?
Yeah. You know, I often talk about NFOs. Speaking of, I keep telling people that you shouldn't be investing in NFOs because you want to know the track record. But unfortunately, a lot of people jump into NFOs because they think that they're getting an advantage. Why do you think that is?
So look, I run a mutual fund company, so people will tell me all kinds of things. I think the fundamental thing is you should never rush into anything in an investing world. I always tell everyone there's no investment opportunity that is going to run away. Do it, understand it, and then do it. I also say that things are not so black and white, right? All NFOs are not bad, all NFOs are not good. Sometimes really cool new ideas are launched, sometimes funds are launched and they only take money in the NFO. Now, again, I give you the restaurant analogy. People bash AMCs for doing NFOs. AMCs are like a promoter of restaurants. We have to open restaurants, right? Because that is our business model. There is that line ना, क्योंकि सास भी कभी बहू थी, हर existing fund कभी NFO भी था, right? So it is our job to launch NFOs because we have categories, we have a business to build. It's a promoter's job to launch restaurants. It's your job as a consumer to decide when you're going to eat, at what point you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat, if you're going to eat. The worst reason to buy an NFO is the 10 rupee NAV, which is the greatest bloody myth. There is no 10 rupee magic. No, there is no 10 rupee magic.
I was going to ask you exactly that. Okay, a new restaurant is launched. It's going to price you the same way.
In fact, the restaurant industry might be kind enough to give you an entry discount. In their market, there is no discount.
Can you explain that in the simplest manner possible?
See, the point is that when I'm buying, if I'm a new fund and I'm buying at 10 rupee NAV, and you're an old fund and you're buying at 50 rupee NAV, if we want to buy new securities in the market, we're buying them from the same market.
It's the same price.
We're buying the same subsidies in the same market for the same price. So there's no arbitrage. So the 10 rupee NAV myth is false, false, false.
So, okay. So there you go. Who better to tell you than somebody who's actually launching these funds in the first place?
I launch NFOs, buy them for many reasons, but not because of 10 rupees.
And not because there's a price advantage to be
There's no price advantage. There's nothing.
So, but let's also talk about the lovely food that we have on the table. We've talked about Dal Chawal, but we must also talk about the sweet. We have to get to that, Radhika. I know you've been eyeing it, so have I.
I love sugar.
I do too, but the problem is too much of it is not a good idea, especially when you're convincing yourself. Do you think that a lot of us, of course, and this is psychological, you convince yourself that it's okay to have another bite. It's okay to get up in the middle of the night. I'm going to drink some water, but grab some cake while I'm at it.
So I have another thing that people don't know about me is I have a terrible tendency to put on weight.
Right.
I was actually born double the size of a normal baby. I was born 13 pounds. So my life has been a journey of getting healthier and losing weight. And I really put on weight very fast. One of the things my mother-in-law taught me, she's very slim, is portion control.
Right.
And I really believe everything in life, in controlled amounts and in the right amounts is okay. That's my own fitness formula. So that's why even when I talk Dal Chawal, I know that sugar exists. I always say it's 70-80% because I know there's that old Ranbir Kapoor dialogue that life में सिर्फ दाल चावल नहीं खाएंगे, थोड़ा हक्का noodle, थोड़ा मीठा, थोड़ा ये चाहिए. So I don't say don't be experimental with your money. If there's a new concept, if there's a thematic idea, as long as this stuff is limited to 10-20% of your money. For instance, my own Shark Tank investments, they are my non-dal chawal.
Right.
They are my sweets. They are my moong ki dal ka halwa and this amazing looking custard which I am going to eat. They are that. But they're not going to be more than 20% of my portfolio.
And your risk-taking ability is very important towards risk-taking capability and ability. Both of
are
those
very
aspects.
important. In fact, I mean, in my own case, I know I went from being a lot more conservative a few years ago to a lot more aggressive now, because obviously the corpus is built up, and my husband and I have a virtually fully paid up home.
Right.
So we moved from eating a lot more BAF in our diet to a little more equity in our diet. I think 7-8 years ago, if you had asked me to do a lot of unlisted startup investing, all this kind of stuff, I would have said my body can't handle
Yeah.
it. Now it can handle 10-15% of it. So everything that is done in moderation, I feel in the right quantity, including food, is okay. So, by the way, I love sugar. I need to eat some of it every day. This is really bad. But I either eat a very small quantity. So I will ask, for 1 spoon of ice cream, literally 1 spoon of ice cream. Or I'll eat it at lunch, not at midnight.
So there is also another analogy that can be drawn. They say that, I mean, I'm not somebody who counts calories. I think that it's not sustainable.
I can't.
But at the same time, if you have a rough idea of how much you're eating and you burn that much, you try to burn that much, right? So would you say that when you are eating something sweet, when you run, right, or you do something, the same way if you are making an investment that is relatively risky, you match that with something that is not, that is stable. Do you think that's a sustainable approach?
And I think that, that's why I think the Indian Thali construct is so beautiful, right? Because it finally advocates control and doing things in small, sustainable ways. And the construct, I think, the Thali is so unique to India because I travel so much and I try a Thali in every state because it's a quick way to sample. And an Odia Thali will be so different from an Andhra Thali, which will be so different from a Rajasthani Thali. But all of them have one thing in common, and that is the sense of balance.
And diversity.
And balance and diversification. I think your diet teaches you that. Actually, you talked about calories. You'll have a little bit of protein, you'll have some pulses, you'll have some carb, you'll have everything.
And the beauty is that each of those, thalis are designed for the people in that region.
For their weather conditions, for that state. So that's the other thing I keep telling young people is that people come and ask me for stock tips or what's the ideal asset allocation or what's the ideal percentage of equity I hold. And I'm like, there is no ideal. The ideal depends on you, and please ask for help for someone, for an advisor to guide you on the ideal because it really depends. I went to, I think it was in Himachal, and I had a Garwadi Thali. It's outstanding. It had gehet ki dal, very different sabzis. It was a Thali, but it was for that region in those conditions versus an Andhra one that is so completely different. Or, you have the banana leaf meal, the sadhya in Kerala.
Yes.
Very, very different, very local to that state. But a lot of commonality. The dal rice will be a commonality in all of them.
Absolutely. No, that is true. Because that's the base, that forms the core.
That's the base.
The other aspect that I want to talk about, of course, is that just like when you're eating, obviously you're watching your waistline, you're watching your weight. Sometimes you have to take care of yourself, right? But that's not enough.
It's not.
And they say that you need to have a periodic medical examination. That same can be said for your portfolio as well.
Yeah, and I have a couple of rules there. So I think daily checking your portfolio is like counting calories in every meal. I had a roommate once. And every time before she ate, she would weigh her food on a calorie meter and check the calories. I think it's a recipe to drive yourself crazy. And increasingly with investments, I feel the NAV of a fund will fall once a day. But thanks to guys like you in the media, not you specifically, WhatsApp, social media, you will feel that fall in your portfolio so many times a day. So you should do an annual review. I think there are two types. Like for my portfolio, there are two reviews I do. I do an annual review to mostly check the quantum of investments I'm doing. In fact, at the end, once I know my increments, bonus, how my compensation is changing for the year, my husband and I write down the family expenses.
Right.
That this is what we're spending, this is what we're going to earn. We readjust our SIP. So it's almost like readjusting your diet after you visit the doctor, you've got your health checkup, you readjust your SIP. So we do that. We don't make very large changes on funds, a few funds here or there, a little bit of asset allocation, rebalancing. Once in 3 to 5 years, we do a large structural review of our portfolio, which is when we say,
what's doing
Okay,
well.
I need to check. I've crossed the 40 milestone or the 50 milestone or the, whatever. I need to take a stock of my health, readjust long-term habits.
Yes.
They will review funds. Okay, I've given this fund 5 years. Now has it performed? Okay, I can be a lot more aggressive. I'll fundamentally change my asset allocation. So at least I believe in two kinds of reviews, an annual review and a more structural, deep going deep kind of review.
So the please, I've been hogging and you've been.
You have the pleasure of hogging,
talking, because I like to listen more than I talk.
No, you just like to eat.
That's my excuse. But the other aspect, of course, is if you've got something that is working and you do a step up, right? For you, you do that deep review and you take those big calls. But sometimes the simple plans work, right? When you do a step up, every time you earn more, you increase your SIP or you increase your investment. The same way that if you like something on your plate and if it fits within the plan, you ask for something more, you ask for more of this.
I just asked for more of this amazing Chandan ka thing.
So that's a very simple concept that works.
It's a good concept because suddenly, when you acquire wealth, and I'm going to get trolled for saying this, you suddenly feel the need, as you've gotten richer, कि चलो मैं दाल चावल छोड़ के ना sushi और avocado toast रोज खाऊंगा. And the reality is, we've realized all of us have grown up with a certain set of diets, things, behaviors that work for your body. Now with me, for instance, I have 8 to 10 funds. Most people will have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 funds. These are the core funds in your portfolio. These are your dal chawals. You just increase the SIP in those funds. Why do you want to add new characters to your play when a certain set of things is working? It's the same thing, by the way, people get richer and they're like, oh, mutual fund is too boring.
I was going to ask you.
It drives me nuts.
Radhika, so you obviously interact with a wide gamut of people. Is it true that when people are sitting on this side of the fence, the mutual fund side, they say, oh, I want to do PMS, I want to do AIF. And when they go there, they say, oh, this is not doing too well, let me go back to... So it's always good on the other side.
I'm telling you, it's the equivalent of growing up eating this wonderful kind of diet and then becoming rich suddenly, and a bunch of fine dining guys are sending you messages and you're like, no, I should eat sushi every day. Then you get an indigestion and the richest people go back to eating dhokla and dal and whatever that they eat. So a lot of that happens and it comes out of this desire to taste the exotic. And I don't think... I've come from an alternatives background, so I don't have a problem with exotics, but exotics should be left as exotics and they should only be done if they're adding genuine value to your portfolio. A lot of these products tend to be replicas of dal chawal in a molecular gastronomy format.
But we've spoken about this, right? The whole idea of creating... I know it's called a new asset class. I don't necessarily like the idea of calling it an asset class.
Yeah, I don't think it's an asset class.
It's not it's a mode of investment. It's a vehicle to invest. And so... what do you think about that? Because it's likely once it comes through, of course, a lot of work probably needs to be done. It's another way for you to invest. Of course, PMS is an option as well. It's a middle ground. But then if there is the same product, can we truly do long short, effectively in India?
So I'll tell you, I have been very excited about new asset class. But you bring up a very important point. If any platform, whether it's PMS, whether it's AIF or new asset class, if you're going to use the platform to just manufacture the same stuff on a new platform, there's no platform as efficient as the mutual fund platform, and I think the scale has said that. Where I'm excited about new asset class is the flexibility that you will have to do a few different things. And let me give you examples that we've been toying with. And of course, the devil in the details is not out. So I don't know how much you can do. But for instance, in fixed income, we don't do credit products on our MF platform at all. We don't believe a daily liquidity platform can do a new asset class. However, if I have the flexibility to change liquidity terms, to maybe run things closed-ended, then for a more nuanced set of customers, I might be open on the fixed income side to being more experimental than I am. Long short, they're saying you can't take leverage, so that is contained. So it's not as aggressive as the AIF platform. The amount of derivative exposure also you have is, I think, you can't be more than 25% net short. So we have to see what comes out. But maybe I can do a few new products. But the key is, I'm not going to use that platform to manufacture what my mutual fund platform has, because for that platform, there is no platform like mutual fund.
And ultimately simplicity is absolutely key. I think we've covered quite a few bases, and this food has been calling to me.
The food has been
all
calling
of
us.
this, all through this
That's why I'm
conversation.
eating.
Hopefully, Radhika, the conversation that we've had is going to encourage people to go out and eat the simple thali, because
Yes.
that's one aspect of
It's
this.
what we've been eating for generations. It's culture. It's good for us.
And the other aspect is to look at Dal Chawal in their investments, and
Yes.
that really is going to be the key as well.
Yeah.
This was Money Wise. Thank you so much, Radhika,
Thank
for
you.
joining me on this
Thank
conversation.
you, and happy eating and happy festive season.
Happy festive season to you and yours as well.
Thank
and
you.
to you tuning in from home, here's wishing you and yours a very, very happy festive season. Love and good wishes from all of us here at NDTV Profit.